Today's Stearman Flight is in honor of all of those who have served in our nation's military.
How you doing? Doing well.
Yeah, we'll take it back to World War II. Sounds of Glenn Miller and the band as we look at this primary trainer, this two-ship flight of primary trainers. They're flown by Kerry Harden from Starkville, Mississippi, and Mike Nebrick from Denton, Texas. The yellow Navy Stearman was based at Naval Air Station, Dallas, Texas throughout its military service, and the blue and yellow Army Air Corps Stearman was based at airfields and completed its military service at Pryor Field in Decatur, Alabama. Built as a private venture by the Stearman Aircraft Company of Wichita, Kansas, which was then bought by Boeing in 1934, this two-seat biplane was a mixed construction. And by that I mean the wings were of wood with fabric covering, while the fuselage had a tough welded steel framework, and it was also fabric covered. Now, it had 3 different types of engines on it, and if it was flown by the United States Army Air Force, had 3 different designations, although it was the same airframe. A PT-13 was powered by a 220 horsepower Lycoming engine. A PT-17, which is the name most folks know this airplane by in its Army Air Force service, and Army Air Force service early on, was the PT-17, and it had a Continental engine. If it had a Jacobs engine, also about 220 horsepower, it was a PT-18. Top speed of blistering 124 miles per hour, and that's straight down. Because it cruised, you know, it was really probably closer about, yeah, we've got 85 miles an hour. It was very simple. It was a primary trainer. That's why the Army Air Corps called it a PT, primary trainer. Very simple. A fixed landing gear. It had a 2-position prop that could only be changed on the ground. From cruise, cross country to, in some cases, aerobatic, but essentially it was a fixed pitch propeller and a very simple no-flap configuration airplane. Had ailerons only on the bottom wings, so they're going to bring it around from behind us. Officially named the Boeing Model 75, the plane has been known as the Stearman by many who flew it. The N2S is what the Navy called it, and the Canadian Forces called it the Kaydet, K-A-Y-D-E-T, and that name has also found its way into the nomenclature of the Stearman line of biplanes. Whatever name, over 10,000 were built. And by the end of 1940, by the end of 1945, at least 1,000 are still flying worldwide today. Some Stearman owners claim that it had an allegedly challenging ground handling characteristic that caused ground loops. And it was called the Yellow Peril, and our air boss, Wayne Boggs, is saying, yes, have you been there in a... Oh, let's hear, talk to me, Wayne, for just a minute. You've got some time in this Stearman.
Let me look at it like this. I've got quite a bit of time in the Stearman. The Stearman nearly flies like most of the other aircraft it flies. It's on the ground. That's why they paint that line on the runway. As soon as the bird rises, it's straight out when it goes. It's got a real narrow stance, short tail on it,
So, yeah, when you taxi it on the ground, when you got a taxi, you actually have to send back and forth. You push on the left rudder pedal, look out on the right. So you can see where you're going. Then you push on the right rudder pedal, look out the left side, and so as part of why they called it the Yellow Peril. Thanks, Wayne Boggs. And a lot of guys didn't get through primary training. You know, if they washed out, they were done. They went to do something else. They didn't get another shot at it. If they completed the curriculum in the primary trainers, they moved on to basic trainers. The Air Force called them BTs, like the BT-13 Vultee Valiant. A little more complex system. It had a two-stage adjustable, two-position adjustable propeller from inside the cockpit. And it had some more instrumentation in it, and at certain power settings, the way they mounted those instruments, they shock mounted the instruments, and they would vibrate. And so the airplane really got the reputation as the multi-vibrator. That's what the pilots called it. And then after they completed the training syllabus in the basic trainers, they move on to the advanced trainers like the Tech Set, or the SNJ. At the beginning of World War II, flight training lasted 9 months, with 3 months of primary, 3 months of basic, and 3 months of advanced training. Each pilot had about 65 hours of primary training, 75 hours of both basic and advanced training. Then during the war, each phase was reduced first to 10 weeks and then 9 weeks. Primary training was accomplished. Airplanes like the PT-17 and also the PT-19, PT-22, and PT-23, which were monoplanes, not biplanes like we're seeing up here. But the Stearman was the most widely used primary trainer of World War II. Would you join me in a nice hand for our pilots, Terry Harden and Mike Nebrig?
Still looking at actually 3 of them.
Peripheral vision is the key to flying any of these tail tractor airplanes. In one of the Navy and Marine Corps' most famous aircraft, that problem of forward visibility was so great that the chances on Corsair, while designed for use on the carrier, was so dangerous in its trying to land it because of the inability of the pilots to have forward visibility as they approached the deck of the carrier.